Like many of your past students recently, recently came back to Dota around March due to the pandemic. I previously was a 4K like ancient level support player, playing both 4 and 5. Upon coming back, I switched over to carry. And when I recalibrated, I was recalibrated around 3K. Right now, that's up to 3.4. So that's kind of where I'm sitting at right now.
Okay.
And right now, I'm definitely, especially with this new patch, I feel pretty comfortable with like farming, map pressure. Like if I can play a hero like, Troll is my best hero, but any hero that can pressure towers or like pressure the map, like Terrorblade, stuff like that, I feel pretty comfortable on. But in metas where I have to fight or like, I'm expected to play these weird safe laners like, Leshrac or Quap, like, I don't know if that's necessarily what this meta will end up being, but even heroes like Ursa, I tend to struggle. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out how I can balance fighting and farming. Especially in this bracket, it feels like if I'm not farming, I'm losing, even if that's not like the optimal play.
Banana slam jam.
Yeah, man. I think you won't have to worry about it for a long time before you like have to be able to play like Quaps and Leshes. I think those types of heroes are like really hard to play properly in the carry role because I think they also require your teammates to apply enough pressure such that, you're not just the one farming and then like Spectre on the enemy team's farming too,
Yeah.
So in your bracket, I think it's pretty unreliable to pick those heroes. Like, I don't even think it's necessarily within like your control to win or lose the game off those heroes. I think this patch, like last patch, I think it was very possible to win the game playing something like Quap if you saw their offlaner and you just picked Quap and you're like, let's fuck him up. But this guy's gonna have absolutely no farm. I'm gonna be like 2 or 3 levels ahead of him.
Yeah.
But this patch, because of the pick order change, it's felt pretty impossible for me to guarantee like a lane stomp. So usually I like to pick heroes, like I'm already realizing it pretty quick and I'm already still making mistakes like thinking about it, but I like to pick heroes that either reliably get their farm with whatever support I have, like, they're a good pair with my support, or like they synergize well with the support later. So either way, like if I'm like an Ursa, Ursa's the exception. I think Ursa's completely broken. Like last game I picked Ricky because he went with Grimstroke. Like this patch, I'm probably going to be very reluctant to pick Ricky unless it is probably Lich or Grim 5, because those 2 5s go like really well with Ricky. So when it comes to like any aggression hero, I would probably need a specific support that enables me. Like I just played against Coddle Gyro. It seems like the way to go now is either safe farmers like Wraith King Spectre type heroes, or heroes that are blatantly really good with your support. And at your bracket, I don't necessarily know if like picking to synergize with your support is the best option, because yeah, it's like, yeah, you have a Grimstroke. Even if you're a Ricky, like, is that Grim going to do the right thing? I just had freaking SVG as my Grimstroke. It's like, I'm going to trust him to, do the right thing. But yeah, so I've said enough. Do you have some replays you have in mind for?
I do, yes. I'll just start off with the troll replay where I think I kind of play my style of game. And you can kind of tell me like, am I farming too much, or like I go Battle Fury, it's like I'm not being active on the map, and I just kind of want either to say, okay, this is the right call to just sit back and Battle Fury and then start pressuring, or if I need to be more active early when I fight, or whatever the case may be. This game's kind of a stomp. Our mid does really well, but I think my laning stage generally tends to be a little bit weaker, so anything you see is good.
Sure. Do you see my Dota screen here?
I do, yes.
Okay. So immediately when I pick Troll, I've been nervous about picking Troll this patch, other than maybe with like an Oracle or like a Legion on my team, some hero that dispels me. I feel like if my hero can't safely farm, it feels rough, and I'm at the mercy of my teammates, and even then it's like I have to go usually like BKBs and shit. Like I would personally never pick Troll into like Willow Tiny supports, because I could pick something like an Illusion hero, or even just, you know, a hero with built-in BKB like Juggernakes, and these two supports just like don't kill me. With Troll, you know, it's a bit different. However, if you're gonna pick a hero like Troll, in this game I look at their heroes and say, well, anytime I walk up to a tower, if they were to coil me, I probably just die. So with that in mind, when I do pick my hero, I think if I walk up to a tower, what's going to happen? In this game, I'd be very passive about farming. You probably need 2 or 3 items before you feel good about forcing anything here. So we'll talk about anything else you can do. I'm watching the lane while we talk here. Starting items seem reasonable.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what exactly the Wraith Bands is in this new patch. Like how many, if I should get them before, you know, starting into the real items.
For sure. Wraith Bands seem a bit buff to me, but mainly on heroes like Spectre and Anti-Mage with really low base armor. They're still like fine on other carries because they're 10 attack speed and 5 damage for 500 gold, but in terms of like farming and everything. But let me see what happened here. I'm busy talking to you about Wraith Bands. I feel like they're about the same as they were before. You know, they lost 1 agi, like that's basically all they lost in terms of efficiency. So you do get tossed in here.
First blood. Thanks and have fun.
Yeah, that's just the nature of playing against Tiny. You got to be very careful with your positioning. Not much else to say about that.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a lane where I definitely tell my support over and over again to pull. If he doesn't listen, really not much you can do about it. The lane being this far up is pretty unplayable because of the Tiny toss there. Like, Tiny doesn't threaten you if the lane's at your own tier 1, right? But when it's near theirs, he does. So you end up pulling yourself, which gets half the creep wave. That's pretty good. We'll take that. About the best thing you can do there. So we did reset the lane equilibrium.
Invisibility.
So in this lane, I'm not really a huge fan of boots. I've realized in my games that when I'm learning a new patch, especially this one, like where they reworked a lot of these small items, it's like an interesting puzzle to solve to get to, like, you know, what items am I buying first. And I think most carries that I've had struggle dealing with are ones where they just go like double Wraith Band, Glove of Haste, Band of Elven Skin, and then Treads, you know, like all they do is stand on top of the creep wave and hit it hard, you know, and if I walk up, they hit me. I think against Bristle, you don't have to really worry about catching him. I don't think you're playing this lane to kill Bristle. I think Troll's like a pretty decent counter to Bristle in terms of the lane. You have pretty high armor when you're in melee form, and when he's like trying to harass you, you can like Whirling Axe him and trade back, maybe just kill the creep wave later and ignore him. I think those are the ways to deal with Bristle. He doesn't threaten you, and you can kind of just ignore him. So Troll fits that description well. So like I view this as like I would rather just hit creeps as hard as possible and play kind of the sustain game. Like I'd even consider going like Glove of Haste, Ring of Health, you know, like towards your Battle Fury, where you're just playing this completely trade-based lane. Boots to me kind of tell me you're either scared of dying or you're really looking to kill them. You know, your positioning in lane is really important. To me, I feel like you're going to be sitting on top of creeps. The guy's coming to you, and you're hitting him. He's quilling you, and that's like what's going to be happening, right? So it seems like such a small thing to nitpick, but people ask me all the time on my channel about, like, you know, BSJ, how do I get better at, you know, what component of treads I buy first? And it says like a lot about your vision of the lane if you go the boots before the glove of haste. You know, that tells me a lot. It's like, you know, if you compare Glove of Haste to Band of Elvenskin, Band of Elvenskin is 6 damage, 6 attack speed, and 1 armor. You know, that's what it is, compared to just 25 attack speed. So on some heroes, they'd probably appreciate that extra 6 base damage. You could even consider that before the Glove of Haste here. You know, you could go Band of Elvenskin. I think either would be reasonable, and then at that point, it's like, it's pretty nitpicky. Like, Glove of Haste and Band of Elvenskin are similar enough to me where I'd be like, okay, you know, that's his personal choice, whatever. So yeah, that's enough to me. It's just like when you're in lane, really envision, you know, like the dynamic of what's happening between you and the other guy. Okay, so you are leveling him.
Radiant are scanning.
Is all this like creep aggro decent?
Yeah, everything else I've seen so far is fine. You're actually pretty good on that. Like, usually what I would say is this, like, none of it's gonna be perfect. Like, if, you know, even I have stuff I could work on that front. But if I don't feel like it's something you could immediately work on, or it's something that's like causing you to be 3.4k, then I'm just not gonna mention it for now.
Gotcha.
So I think your creep aggro and lane usage is plenty good enough, in my opinion. So I'm not too focused on it at this moment. You did miss creeps to get that kill, but I think that's perfectly fine. I think the way I look at this lane, though, is... Okay, here's a great example of something. So, I talk about this a lot, right? I talk about this where you kill a guy, and what do I talk about? I don't know how many of my sessions you watch. What do I think about? What do I talk about when I kill this guy?
Yeah, usually once you kill someone, it's basically asking what was he preventing you from doing, or what do you want to do now that he's not an obstacle for you.
Okay, great. So, and also on top of that, like, you know, what should I use? Like, what items should I buy and stuff to capitalize on that? Is it really important to, like, reset health and mana? You know, should I go more farming items now? Should I go even more aggressive items? You know, like, what am I looking to do now? On top of, like, with that extra bolster by killing this guy. So my question is, you know, it is hard to balance regen with accelerating your own game. It's something I've noticed. If I'm carry against some offlaner like Beastmaster, I really focus on trying to shut them down as much as possible, because the minute that guy gets level 6, my game is slower, right? I usually have to leave my lane or play much more defensively. Be wary of ganks, that kind of stuff. When I'm against a hero like Bristle, I don't really give a shit about his timings. Like, they don't matter to me at all. So it's not that I'm completely ignoring ever shutting him down, but most of my decisions will lean towards just boosting myself as much as possible and letting him get what he gets. Like, it's not worth expending a bunch of extra gold and stuff to shut down a Bristle when you could spend it accelerating yourself, as opposed to other matchups where if you don't slow them down, it actually does slow you down. So it's worth to do it because it is accelerating you. My point being here is you killed this Bristle. You flew yourself some items, and my question for you is, if you're at this health and mana and Bristle comes back and the lane's where it is, what is your thought on that in general?
It's definitely uncomfortable. I mean, I can't really come up to the wave. I'll get tossed or pulled down or whatever.
So by the time Bristle's alive again, what would you like to be doing?
Either resetting the wave myself or hitting jungle creeps or just applying out more regen to me.
So if you were like an anti-mage, you know, your real only option is to like reset the lane, because your hero doesn't kill creeps like in the jungle right now. So I look at this moment and I say, you're a troll warlord, and your hero is pretty decent at clearing the wave, and since clearing the jungle camps, and since the lane is at his tower right now, I have this buffer where Bristleback's going to respawn and he's going to have to farm the creeps, right? Like he's actually going to have to sit there. So this gives me this amazing moment to say, while Bristle's dead, I need to get the fuck out of here. Okay? Like, but while he's dead, how much farm can I suck out of this lane before I leave? And I'm not telling you to, like, permanently leave, right? I'm telling you that at this point, because you're against a hero like Bristle, it's much more important to just accelerate your own game and ignore him. So, but you do have to be back to defend your tower, contest your lane, all that kind of stuff. So with that in mind, it's your choice to start. You're going to start jungling. Like, you should hit the creeps as much as possible, kill as many creeps as possible, go back to jungle. And then your two choices are to walk back to base, like farm your way back to base.
Right.
And then walk back to base, regen all the way to full, then TP back to lane. Or ferry yourself like 2 salves and a clarity while you're jungling, and then come back to lane after you've jungled until you're full health, full mana, or like close to full mana. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in that case, it's kind of like, that's a decision where which one's more efficient for me. How many camps am I going to miss if I go back to base? Like, you know, how much gold of regen do I have to spend? How much health and mana do I have to feel good about returning to lane? Is it full?
Yeah.
You know, I would say against Bristle Tiny, I would probably want full health. Like, I think you can contest this lane, but if you're like 500 health or 600 health, it doesn't really feel good. You know, I wouldn't want to contest this lane. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to clear this wave. I'm going to instantly go jungle, and I'm going to probably walk my way back to base. And by the time I've farmed my way back to base, I probably have most of a ring of health. I'll come back to lane, clear a wave like I normally would, just with like whirling axes, go pick up my ring of health, and I'm on my way farming, right? That's how I would vision the next minute or so.
Gotcha.
This is important because anything you do other than that is just inefficient, like in my eyes. Like, it's just inefficient. Right. So I'm trying to explain this in a way that can be applied to other games, but I want you to start thinking about every time you get to about this stage in the game, when you're winning your lane, how am I going to capitalize on it? Is it by accelerating my own game or slowing the opponents down? And that has a lot to do with whether or not you're jungling more, because if you're jungling more, that means you're prioritizing yourself over the opponent. Right. A lot of that not only has to do with, are you worried about his timings, but also, does he scare you? You know, like if you're in lane and he threatens you, but you don't threaten him, even if you're winning, that kind of happens a lot in the carry role. Maybe it's not worth your time, you know, to stay in lane. I've rattled on a lot, but I saw you kind of just sit back here and do like a chill here. I would have whirling axed the fuck out of this and gotten the fuck out. You see, like, the difference in approach here?
For sure.
Yeah, so... yeah, this isn't good. Get the fuck out, right?
Yeah.
Like, you see what I'm saying? How all of that could have been foreseen. You didn't have to experience it to have it happen. So, your idea of, like, buying yourself a bunch of regen is fine. But, really, why are you coming back to lane here? And like, the answer is, like... if it's more efficient for you, sure, go ahead and come back to lane. I'd argue you could clear like 1 or 2 more camps, let the lane push into your tower, and even though Bristle's going to get the lane off of it, maybe, you're going to get a lot more out of it. So, if your AA also hadn't died, you wouldn't have had a way to get your health and mana back. But if you want to ferry yourself all of that region and come back into lane, honestly, that's a reasonable choice, and that's up to you. I'm just telling you both are options. So you're going to stack here. You should definitely spend your mana. Red switching also.
A dominating double kill.
Yeah, I think at this point I leave to start going to the jungle and I give AA the lane. But I think it was just like you said, like a minute or 30 seconds too late.
So I think this is actually bad to be jungling because you're stronger than Bristle right now. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure.
So if you're stronger than Bristle, what's like really important right now about top lane?
I can shut down Bristle if I'm there.
No, bounty runes, man. It's just bounty runes.
Oh, bounty runes.
Like, gotcha. I would just walk top to establish some aggression. Also, you have your Ring of Health to go pick up at the secret shop. That's something to consider as well. The only thing we really have to be worried about right now is Puck. That's how, like, really what I'm worried about. Potential support rotations, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to play super aggressive, but I need to at least be there such that if they then show 3 heroes bottom, I'm not just giving Bristle a rune. So this is an example where even though you're half health, I'd rather you like clear that small camp and then kind of stay near your top lane. Just give up maybe one big camp worth of farm to try to get that bounty rune. That's just an example of like priority of a big camp over a bounty rune, which I think is, you know, a little misguided there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Definitely, I'm gonna confirm. Do you ever tread switch?
Not as much as I should, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Troll has like no int growth, right? The only reason you have any amount of mana is because you have this. So on Troll, you have 19 int. So, you know, you're sitting, or 24, I guess, with your items. So, simply put, people ask me about this kind of shit. You need to play the same hero 10 games in a row, and you don't cast a single spell while farming without tread switching. You just don't do it. And you may fucking take 3 times longer to push your buttons. You may die to random ganks because your map awareness is potato and you're thinking about tread switching rather than, you know, playing the game. But if you do care about, you know, quick ways of getting better, this is just less mana to cast spells and farm slower, right? So, yeah, that's just kind of one of those things. There's really no excuses. You just either do it and get better or don't want to put in the time and effort. You know, it's just muscle memory. Once you do it, and you're done. Yeah. So, farming patterns now are kind of reasonable. You're giving EA the lane. I only wanted you top for the bounty runes, but aside from that, I think what you're doing is fine. I think you farming around mid is reasonable. I think you're really never the one that goes in first. So if you feel safe enough to contribute from a distance, like you are, where you kind of just casted out some whirling axes, and that's a reasonable contribution to the fight. You guys probably don't kill that Willow without you there. You are farming the small camp, so you're conveniently at this fight. That's perfectly fine participation. I would just never be like charging in on Troll. You know, I'd let the fight break out. I see some other heroes fighting, and I'll show up. This is a bit different, and I'll talk about in a second.
Monster kill. Hello, this is Gabe Newell. Thanks for playing Dota 2.
I definitely should have died there.
I think you're just okay, how do I word? Let me rewind. I'm gonna try to identify to you. This feels weird to me, even though it looks very similar to the mid one. You clear this camp and you see like your really strong hero get coiled, and you're kind of here as like a, hey buddy, don't die. You know, you're my level 11 invoker. I'm here for you. Like, I'm not here to do much, but maybe I'll mischance somebody. You know. Yeah. If I'm you, I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm just gonna help this guy get out. He's really strong. I'm not, so I'm willing to play around this guy. But like right after we do this, where I enabled my invoker to be aggressive, it's like, I guess the reason why you know, sometimes when I'm forced to explain myself, it all kind of makes more sense to me why I think things. Yeah. Your Centaur just use ult. He's not somebody you want to play around. It makes no sense to be on the same part of the map as him. Because what does Centaur want to do when his ult's on cooldown? Just farm, pretty much. Yeah, he just wants to clear some creeps, right? Like, that's all he really wants to do. So I guess this decision boils down to, like, what heroes want you with them or not. And I like you farming near your invoker because he is a hero that's strong, and that's a lot of the time tells you what hero, if you were going to fight, would you be fighting around. If you're in farm mode, if I'm ever in just farm mode, I usually will farm somewhat near whatever the hero on my team that's strong wants to do. So like if he wants to get kills, maybe I'll farm. If there's a way I can farm near him, I will. If there's not, then I'll obviously farm as far away as possible from him. If he's a hero that kind of defends towers, maybe I'll farm near a tower I think we might need to defend. If he's a hero that takes towers, maybe I'll farm behind him while he's pushing a tower. You know, whatever. The idea is that's what I like. Here, not so much with the Centaur. He's already ulted. This isn't a hero I'd want to fight around. I have a whole triangle that wants to be farmed. All these things combined. Your invoker does show up. I'd almost say like farm that big camp, and if invoker shows up, maybe you show up behind him, you know, because you're noticing your reason why your fights are good or bad is if invoker's there. Like, even though it kind of works out, I'm just not an overall fan of the odds of that being a good choice for you. Okay, so playing the good part of the map here. Give ourselves a ward. Okay.
Radiant's bottom tower is
I would just never hit that tier 2. You're fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Like, you're actually just nuts for hitting this tier 2. But I think pushing in the lane is great. But now the enemy team just, they back off. Like, what if that's a puck? And then instantly after puck TPs, Dark Willow also TPs. You know, you're actually just dead, you know? So that's how I kind of decide how far up I'm allowed to play. That line is pretty, I don't want to say fickle, but it's a pretty fine line. It's like, on certain heroes, you can hit the tower all you want until they TP 3 heroes. On other heroes, you literally can't be within range of the tower by the time they have TP'd. In this game, because of everything I said at the start, I would be prioritizing getting like 2 or 3 items before I'm up in anyone's face. I think it's great that you're playing here and forcing the lane into their tower, but this is something where I know for a fact if I did this in a good game, like in one of my games, if the puck was like top 100, top 200, he'd TP bottom and kill me and be calling for a +1. So there's something to think about. You're forcing well, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, is this a situation where I should just be farming triangle because there's so much space available, and like my offlaner should be in the
No, I think you forcing in the lane bottom like this is absolutely fine. It's just like push it into the tower, force someone to react like you did, but then you know, don't be in any. The idea is if you're gonna play here, you want to force some sort of play against you, whether or not that's simply a hero TPing to defend the tower, while doing that without being in range of dying, right? Like, you don't want to be too far up to die. Sometimes, like, the farthest you can go up is, like, you know, right here. Or right here. And a lot of your camp farming is decided by that. Yeah. So, if your Centaur wants to play bottom, say your Centaur is, like, consistently playing bottom, right? Then at that point, sure, you can go to triangle. But if nobody's playing here, you need to take as aggressive farm as you think you can take. Like,
gotcha.
If that farm, say you're, you know, a Luna or a Drow, if that farm, the most aggressive farm you think you can take is this camp, and then back, then take this fucking camp, right? Usually, it's based on how far up in the lane you think you're allowed to play. It's like, if you think you can play here, then all the camps behind it are safe. If you think you can play here, then this camp, you know, gets it added on to there. I think this patch, it's harder and harder to play this far up because of this outpost.
Right.
I think this map, part of the map is still good for you, but on a hero like Troll, I'd probably be pretty nervous to play this far up. Like, you know, Puck TP's here, Willow TP's here, you know, you're just kind of dead.
Just dead, yeah.
So just think about that. I don't think the dead lane's changed too much, but this outpost does inflict, or does affect how far up certain heroes can play. When they're playing down here. So yeah, it's like, in this case, you have the option to farm these camps or these camps. And the way I look at Dota is, if you're farming these camps and nobody's farming here, you're just allowing the opponent to do things they shouldn't be allowed to do. Like, they're not reacting to bottom at all. They're not worried about their tier 2 going down. And you're not getting any info for your team. It's like, if you push this lane into the tower and the enemy team isn't defending, it's like it's much more obvious that they're doing something. So TLDR, play as aggressively as you can. If somebody wants to play in front of you, that means you had multiple options to farm. And as long as the aggressive farm that you could take is being taken, you should be content to take the safer farm that you know is you're capable of taking. So the problem is when you are only strong enough to farm your triangle and your Centaur is farming the triangle. Those are the games where I get fucking tilted as fuck, bro. Like, those are the games I get tilted. I'm like, guys, this is the only farm I can take, so you know, this is exactly why I'm not a huge fan of that camp either. It looks like the opponent is very content to just never rotate the puck to you.
Thanks for playing Dota. Double kill.
Yeah, I don't think this is good. Like, what you're doing is not good. It worked and you're not dead, but for some reason the puck just acts like you're not existing when you're the opponent carry and you can't do anything to him, and he can kill you with a coil. So we'd like to thank the puck for being 3k MMR, right? Like, that's what we'd like to say here.
Gotcha.
Those are the type of things, while you're learning heroes, and you take a fight like that and you barely live, you could even ask yourself during the game, after the game, should I have died there? Like, if they had the right heroes, you can learn from not dying, right? Like, you can learn from, like, almost dying and being like, yeah, they brought everything and I didn't die. Great. Yeah. That was, like, the perfect play. It's like, that time around, they brought 2/3 of the equation and I barely lived, you know? If they had just brought the puck, I literally just kaplat there and die. You know, like, that's what's gonna happen. So, okay.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
I'd be spamming Whirling Axes. No reason not to. You have Battle Fury. So, you have all the mana regen in the world. This is an example where I have absolutely no vision in this area of the map. I just saw 2 heroes mid. Like, you've killed these 2 camps. You should definitely be back here.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the only thing you can really do wrong right now is die, I'd say. Like, because of how fragile your hero technically is, like, this is crazy to me. But I see puck bottom, so I'm like, okay, if my team wants to fight, sure. I think you walking up to that small camp is like, what the crazy part. You participating in a fight, kind of crazy to me. Like, I'm like, wow, like, if you want to show up because you think your team's really strong and you want them to go in first, like, I think it's a reasonable choice. It's just the problem I have here is the farm you were taking was actually aggressive, and if the opponent saw your teammates top and then saw you at this small camp and they just tried to kill you, like, you kind of just die. So, in my opinion, if you were farming, like, right here and then considered showing up to that fight, that's, like, great. Like, I think your approach to that fight, similar to the one mid, where you don't really feel safe being alone because you die, but you don't really want to participate in fights, so you kind of farm behind your team, and if there's a weird opening for you to potentially throw in some spells, you do that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, with that in mind, if you think you're strong, maybe you think you are. Like, maybe you think if they went on you with 4 heroes here, you'd live. Like, you know, I don't actually know. That's up to you. I would personally be very scared of their lineup as Troll, even with the lead you have. If they gank you with 3 heroes, they would kill you. Luckily, like I said, they haven't coordinated a single thing. So, in these type of spots where my team's pushing top like that, I'd either be taking the farm right behind them or the hyper passive farm. That's like the 2 choices you have. I would usually ideally take the hyper passive farm and then likely TP top so I don't get ganked. Something like that. I'd probably like farm the triangle, and then after I've cleared all 3 camps, if there's still a potential fight going on and it's like, you know, 1940, meaning there's like 20 seconds, I don't really want to sit here for 20 seconds potentially dying while my team's pushing top. That would be a great time to just clear the camps and TP. Usually when I'm farm mode, I like to clear as many safe camps as possible before I consider going to fights. If you watch a lot of players, a lot of the time, they're actually farming every camp that feels safe to them and then looking to fight. So, like, a balance for them is like, wow, now that I've gotten all these farming accelerators, you know, I have this Battle Fury, then I have this Yasha, I keep farming faster and faster. As I'm farming faster and faster, even if I'm not necessarily looking to fight, there's actually going to be times where I just don't have any creeps to farm. So those are the times that they can often look to participate in fights. I think you're kind of like skipping that part and kind of just walking to the side of the map with fights, which honestly I think the way you're playing is reasonable. None of it's crazy. I think it's just a shift in mindset where in a closer game, you might feed once or twice and just lose the game here. Would be my concern. Okay. We're in. Okay.
Killing spree.
Radiant structures under attack. Radiant's bottom tower has fallen. Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
Yeah, I keep getting. I talked a lot on Sunday, and now I feel like my throat just does not like me.
A dominating performance.
There we go. I was gonna say Roche is probably your next objective, so that was good. Yeah, you're gonna go BKB. I think that's reasonable. I'd even argue like Yasha BKB could be reasonable here. Just because like the small amount of extra farm speed and stuff you're getting from SNY isn't really worth delaying your impact in fights,
Killing spree.
if that makes sense. Like, I probably would go Yasha BKB here, but if the enemy team is somehow allowing me to fight without a BKB, then it's hard for you to gauge. Like, if you think this Sanjin Yasha lets you fight in every way that you would want to, then, you know, go S and Y.
I guess.
Yeah, you said the game was pretty stomp because of your Invoker. I think the way your mid laner is going should absolutely affect your decision.
Yeah.
In terms of like how many farming items you buy, where you play the map, all that kind of stuff. So you're definitely playing more outside the bounds of your hero than I would think you should. I'm gonna go ahead and end this game here.
Yeah.
Overall, a lot of it's good. I think a lot of the lessons you're not gonna learn because people aren't gonna punish you for what you're doing wrong.
Right.
I want you, it's not the perfect game that you showed me, obviously, just because your Invoker did really well. But this patch also feels like this, where the game is similar to the last patch, but where whoever's mid laner wins, it seems like the game's way easier to play from that team's perspective. So my goal would be, whenever you're in these games, to win 100% of them, and when you're in the other half of them, maybe win, you know, 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 4 of those games. So do you have a game where your mid laner either win like even or lost? Because I do think it affects your hero a lot in these cases.
Yeah, let me see.
Because other than a few like small inefficiency things, the lessons I want you to learn, you're not going to learn in these type of games. So
Gotcha. Let me look real quick. Okay, I have an Ursa game. That'll probably work.
yeah,
We're actually running a... Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, on Ursa, he's obviously broken, so I can still, like, do well, but I don't, the actual playstyle is still, like, a little uncomfortable for me.
Okay. Go ahead and check this out here. So, are you Ale?
I am the Ursa.
It's not showing me hero images. Okay, so you're on rating here.
Yeah.
Oops, I did. So, I will say that Slardar is probably one of Ursa's worst matchups, but even now I think it's playable because dash resistance as a concept is just kind of stupid. So let's go ahead and check this out here.
Yeah, this game I'm playing with my like stack of friends. We have my mid laner likes to play a lot of carries from the mid lane, so I felt even more pressured to fight.
Yeah, you can tell your friend if he ever wants to get better at Dota that he should drop the PL mid.
30 seconds to battle.
If he wants to, you know, play that way, sure.
Yeah.
It's just like at some point it ain't gonna work anymore, and then he's not gonna know what he's doing anymore. Okay.
He does play a lot of naturals.
What's up?
Oh yeah. I said he does play a lot of natural mids too, but yeah, sometimes we just do stuff like this.
Yeah, you know, you guys can have fun. I'm not gonna stop you. I'm just saying, like, this skill of playing PL mid does not translate at all to anything.
Gotcha.
Higher remorse. Okay, so I would say this patch that Wraithband is just probably better than Ring of Protection on Agi heroes. Like, I'd rather you just get the Slipper of Agility and then buy the Wraithband, because at that point the Slipper, yeah, it's a little bit of Agi itself, but it's base damage, right? You know, it's like, it gives you a little bit more damage, it gives you a little of attack speed, and then by the time you get Wraithband, you spend 500 gold for 2.5 armor, which it's also a farming item, and Ring of Protection for Ursa just doesn't build into anything, right? Like, that's kind of how I look at it. So, this to me is just slowing down your natural item progression for something that gives you very little benefit. You know, you're near your tower, so you can have that extra tower armor. Yeah, I understand you built it against Ursa. I think that's, like, not insane. It's just, like, this patch, because of the rework to Wraithband, I just think
Gotcha.
that's way better. Okay, so, let's see.
Get back.
So when the opponent pulls the lane like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is bad about this for you? Like, why is this good or bad for you?
It's bad because they get like our wave under their tower, so
Okay.
they obviously have free farm, and then they can contest me while I'm hitting those creeps, and like sometimes neutral will stomp or like do random stuff to my hero, or it's very easy for like the forward position to fuck with me while I'm hitting these in these camps.
Okay, so my question for you is, if you tell me it's easy for the 4 position to fuck with you, how long do you have until the 3 position fucks with you?
As soon as he clears the creep wave under his tower.
Okay, and what's keeping you here?
I don't. The fact that the creeps are here, basically.
Yeah, so like what specifically is keeping you here though? Like what? It's the jungle camp, right?
Yeah.
So you're level 1, you're level 2. You know, you have level 1 in both your skills. It just doesn't make sense to clear all these melee creeps. I would be hitting. Basically, what I'm saying is he puts the lane underneath his tower, and what he's giving you in return is a jungle camp. So I want you to focus on killing some creeps, meaning like kill maybe 1 or 2 of the melee creeps, maybe 1 or 2. But expending mana is absurd. Like, that's absurd. Like, why would you spend mana when mana is precious, right? Like, it is something that you don't have unlimited of. Right. You're not actually trading with him at all, right? So you don't have to do it. And the only thing that's keeping you here are these jungle camps, and you got to clear them before the Slardar gets back. So I'm thinking to myself that I get this extra jungle creep. The Slardar is going to get a lane under tower, and then after that, I want the lane to be reset. Like, I want it to be near my tower as normal again. And because I'm a hero that naturally shoves the wave if I'm ever aggressive, same with Shadow Demon, I want 1 or 2 extra creeps, actually, with me. Like, I actually want there to be, like, 6 enemy creeps and 4 allied ones. Do you know what I mean? That gives me some cushion to be aggressive and then maybe not shove the lane into his tower again.
Gotcha.
All these things combine. I just see you using mana to farm this when you don't have to, and then I see you prioritizing the lane creeps when I think the jungle camp is like really important. I'm like, oh, like, you know, even if the Slardar can't possibly contest you for the last hit, even if he's allowed to like walk over and soak half or a third of the XP, that's actually a decent swing as well. In terms of the XP of the camp and benefits of it. So, I'm going to continue playing the lane out, and then we're going to have a discussion about Ursa.
Okay.
I think it might be reasonable to maybe kill the range creep, but you just use 2 claps. You just use like more than half your mana to farm it. And look at what happened here, right? Since he's underneath his tower, his creep wave actually lost 1 creep because you had 4 creeps. He had his wave. Your wave killed 1 of his. So now, because of what you did, you expended 170 mana to farm this camp, and the lane's still back to where it was. Like, it's doing exactly what it was before, based on his pull, right? People ask, like, when people cut the wave or when they pull, you know, what am I supposed to do? Your goal is, you want the lane, you want the lane right here. That's all there is to it. How do you get it there? You know? So I told you that when you pulled it, when they do this kind of shit, you want an extra 1 or 2 creeps left over so that it's not pushing again. And you saw it there. It's kind of like doing the same shit over and over again. So just keeping that in mind, all this stuff is very consistent. Like, when they do these things, it's going to happen every single time. Just things to draw to your attention for lane equilibrium and such.
First blood. Thanks and have fun.
So, this is the way Ursa works. You survive like the first level or 2, and then you shit on everybody. That's kind of how it goes. Okay, that's how the hero works. His level 3 power spike is pretty nutty. His level 1 and 2 is kind of mediocre. That's just kind of how the hero works. So you've chosen to expend all of your mana at the jungle camp as well as trading level 1 and 2, and you then missed 4 creeps to do it, and now the lane's shoving when you're powerful. Do you see like the summation of everything wrong here? So it's like you're playing completely not around the hero's power spikes in the slightest. I actually did a Matu Ursa replay that was on YouTube, and I discussed exactly like how he handled the lane, how he looks at his power spikes, And if you watch, his first level or two is literally defensive creep aggro over and over again, farming creeps. He gets to level 3, he fucking runs at the guy with like all of his Qs. He doesn't spend like a single Q other than maybe to secure a range creep level 1 and 2. But then suddenly he gets level 3 and the gas is all like the pedals pressed and he's running at them. You're just not thinking about lane equilibrium, you're not thinking about power spikes, you're kind of just playing your hero. And I understand that, you know, you said you're newer to Ursa, this kind of stuff, but if I'm ever going into a new hero, I like to have a general understanding of what their power spikes are. So I'll be like, oh, okay, I see, like, you know, I'll watch the one Matumba Man game and I'll be like, oh, like I see he played super passively and then he got level 3 and he ran at him. Okay, so Ursa's probably pretty powerful level 3. Like maybe I'll look at his skills. Oh, that one doubles in damage and 50% increase in reset time. This one 2.5 times the slow, goes out in a cooldown, you know, 60% more damage. Okay, I can see why this is, you know, pretty well scaling abilities from level 1 to 2. Yeah. Point is though that I'll continue rolling here. I'll continue rolling. Okay. You're gonna try to recover the creep equilibrium here. This all starts with you clearing the wave at the jungle camp. Pretty much all there is to that. Like 3 minutes ago or 2 minutes ago. Now the lane's underneath this guy's tower. You just took 400 damage for free. You're actually... Now you have no salve. For people who watch my sessions continuously or, you know, pretty consistently, lane's in a good spot, good things happen. Lane's in a bad spot, bad things happen. Against Slardar, the lane just can't be at his tower. It just doesn't work. It doesn't matter what hero you are. You get ran at, he threatens you, and your only option is to run away because he's gonna stun, he's gonna bash you, and then he's gonna stun, and then he's gonna bash you, and then you're gonna die. Like, that's, you can't do anything about it, right? Like, you actually, against Slardar, there's really nothing you can do. If he walks at you aggressively, there's just nothing you can do. So, in that case, it should make you be really, it should make you have a much higher sense of urgency to keep the lane better, and every time, every decision you make, especially when they pull the wave and all this kind of shit, everything that happens in the lane, you know, last patch when they were cutting creeps, you know, every patch when one team pulls or not, you know, am I keeping the lane outside my tower? How many creeps am I killing? These are the type of things you need to pay attention to, such that when all this random pull shit is over, the lane's in front of your tower again. Like, that's when I know a carry is a skilled player. And when an offlaner makes it really hard for me to do that as a carry, that's when I know the offlaner is a good player. Like, they know I want to do that, and they do everything in their humanly possible, like, that they can to stop it. And it's like, every time a support player doesn't play properly for me to have the lane near my tower, I know he's a bad support player. Like, these are the things that tell me whether or not a guy knows how to lane, like in the safe lane. It's like all about lane equilibrium back and forth. Last lane, you were in this consistent trade lane. Troll's pretty straightforward. You throw axes at people, it's going to push the lane. You're supposed to keep throwing axes at people, and then your support pulls, and that's the end of it. Most heroes are not that straightforward. That's why it's something that if I'm watching a troll replay, I'm probably not going to learn too much about your knowledge of this stuff. So I don't know, how many games of Ursa have you played at this point?
I mean, since coming back, probably 5 or less.
Okay.
I mean, total like 20.
Yeah, so that's fine. I definitely implore you to watch that Matumba Man replay if you haven't already. It is last patch, but it's still very relevant because Ursa's still the same hero. The way I look at Ursa is that people will, like, I remember playing Ursa and people flamed me for, like, not going Orb of Venom, like, super early on. And Ursa is this cool hero in the sense, you know, cool, whatever, where the second the opponent doesn't threaten you anymore, you just sit there, and if they walk up, you push Q and hit them 4 times. And then if they do it again, they're dead. You know, it's like, you just stand in one place and you say, I dare you to walk up to me. That's why people, they're just going double Wraithband treads, because I dare you to fucking walk up to me. I have 2 Wraithbands and treads. You want to hit me? I'll hit you 4 times and you die. You know, it's like, what are you going to fucking do about it? Like, you know, you can't do anything about it. So you're trying to, like, be aggressive and trade with somebody, and you're missing 20 attack speed and 5 armor and CS because you've been aggressive with no items. Like, this hero actually needs items. The new skill build is, you know, the old days when people were super aggressive with Ursa in the early game, you just would go 0-2-3 or whatever, 0-2-2. And because Overpower gave you all the attack speed you ever needed, all you needed to do was be able to hit the guy. So you just walked at him with movement speed items. But nowadays, you go treads because the only thing you need, because you have an ability that naturally closes the gap and then slows them, is the ability to actually just hit them faster. Like, you just have to hit them faster. So it's about adjusting to the current Ursa. Your entire, I actually can't coach much more on this actual laning stage. Your entire conceptual approach to this hero is just wrong. Super chill until level 3, mass those Wraith Bands, get treads. The guy walks up at a certain point, he's just going to lose the trades. And then eventually you're level 6 and he's level 4.5, and then if he walks up too far, he's going to die. You know, it's like, that's really all there is to it. There's very few lanes that Ursa loses the trades. I'd say it was like the Matamba Man game, it was like Nature's Prophet. And even then, he's like super passively creep aggroing, and then he gets level 3 in boots. You know, you look at his items. He had Wraith Band for the first 2 levels, and then the second he gets level 3, he's also delivering himself boots, because that's the level he knows he wants to be aggressive, and he's giving himself the item he needs to be aggressive. It's like in melee versus melee matchups, for the most part, boots don't mean very much. They really just don't. Both heroes have to be on top of the creep wave in order to farm. So if both heroes have to be on top of the wave, what are boots? You know, why? What do they do? What do they do? What does move speed do for me? The guy's already right here. You know, he's right in front of me. It's like, you know, if you're against like a Nature's Prophet, kind of like in the game I did for Matamba Man, that's a bit different. I know I've gone on a long spiel here, but
no, it's all that all makes sense.
Yeah, it's just kind of funny in the most constructive way possible. There's just so much fucking wrong with this picture. I'm kind of like overwhelmed to coach you on it right now. It's fine though, so we'll play it out. We'll play it out. So at this point, it's a bit awkward. You kind of just have to take a chill pill, even though you're supposed to be strong right now. This happens. You know, I've done this kind of shit too. You don't have mana to spare. That's fucking nuts that you just queued that creep. If you had absolutely full mana, should you queue that creep? Yeah.
But not if I...
You don't have mana, so you can't queue that creep. Okay. I basically just want you to watch what's happened so far this lane and tell me how many times Winley's boots has paid off for you.
Yeah, I mean...
Like, when has this movement speed helped you, you know? It's like, this is how I try to get better at my own itemization. And this is how, like, my conceptual approach to the lane... Like, I'll make these mistakes. There's heroes I'm learning, right? I've never played them before, or maybe I've never played a matchup, and I'll think, yeah, maybe I need these items. Like, I'm against Slardar, I want to chase him down, he chases me down, maybe boots are nice. But I've come to the conclusion in the short term that the carry players I have an issue with... I was playing Ricky my first game right here. I want you to see... This is the lane I lost, and I want to show you the next game where I played the exact same matchup and I won, okay? Are you ready? Let's look at these Spectre's items. Where is he at? It's the same matchup.
Yeah.
Look at those items, right? Stat items and damage and mana regen and shit. And then treads. Like, those were his items. Let's look at the next game where I played the exact same matchup. Ricky versus Spectre. I was Ricky off lane. So Ricky versus Spectre, where I win my lane. Let's see this Spectre's items here.
Oof.
Like, what do fucking boots on Spectre do against Ricky? What do they do? They don't do anything. Okay? So, it's like, I literally looked at this and I was like, wow, what an easy lane. Like, the guy has fucking boots. they don't do anything. This patch, it's all about fucking amassing trading items, you know? Whether or not you want to go first item Helm Dom as a farm item, whether or not you want to go double Wraith Band into the Treads Battle Fury on Ursa or Anti-Mage or whatever. You want to play Troll, you know, you go double Wraith Band Treads. Dude, it's all about just fucking hitting faster, hitting harder. That's all it is as a carry. Like, as an offlane player so far, those are the carries I can't deal with because they stand their fucking ground. There's no lane cutting anymore. They can't fucking drag the lane around. The lane's gonna be right next to your fucking tower, and there's nothing they can do about it, so you might as well just hit them when they walk up, right? There's no more of this guy cutting the wave and dragging into the camp and you needing boots to chase him, right? There's no more of that shit. You're just sitting in lane and hitting each other. Like, that's all that's happening now. The lanes are, like, stable again. They're back to normal. So, in my opinion, having boots in your first, like, 1,500 net worth is probably never correct. Like, very, very rarely. I played Lifestealer against Sand King, and my biggest regret was going first item phase boots. I wish I had just gone Blade of Attack and then straight Maelstrom. I wish I had just gone there and hit creeps. Like, that's all I wish I had done. Like, whatever item allows me to stand my ground and hit creeps, and if the guy walks up, I hit him. That's pretty much been my approach now. Like, the guy walks up, I hit him. If he doesn't walk up, I don't hit him. Like, you know, and at some point, though, once I have enough items to do that, meaning, like, if I'm Ursa, I go that first Wraith Band, maybe 2 Wraith Bands, depending on the lane, whatever. Then I buy the treads, or I guess some heroes buy phase, but I'd say most carries right now want treads. You then proceed to say, okay, now I have treads, I'm kind of faster, but even then my build is predicated upon farming, and I'm just killing the guy if he's in my way. You know, if I want to hit this creep wave and he's there, I'm going to go hit him. As an offlaner, I've had really tough time against carries that kind of just say, like, okay, you come within 500 range of me, I'm going to go on you. If not, I just stand there and deny creeps. Those are the heroes I've been having trouble with, or the players I've been having trouble with. So, this obviously is a new patch. Haven't really gotten to discuss it very much with anybody. I'm still learning myself. Some of these lessons are things I've solidified in the last day, so it's pretty fresh for me too. Definitely, so far, preliminarily speaking, in 7.27, I would say this is the impression I have of playing carry. I've played a lot of carry and a lot of offlane so far, and so I've known what's hard to play against and what feels kind of bad to play as, like the approach to the lane. But then we end up going Ring of Health, and this just feels ass. Because would you say this is a sustain lane or like a trading kill lane? Like, what is this lane?
Their lane is definitely bursty. And like,
this isn't a you know, take some hits and back off and go again. This is like a kill each other lane. So going Ring of Health in those lanes just feels fucking ass, right? Like, Ring of Health here just feels ass. I'm like, the way this lane's playing out, don't I want 2 Wraith Bands and treads right now? Like, the way this is, we're just hitting each other. They're hitting me, I'm hitting them, and I realize I don't have enough armor and attack speed to feel good about hitting them. So what do I have to do? I have to run away. And, you know, tread swapping plus Wraith Bands also gives you plenty of mana. Obviously, the first step to that is you actually have that tread swap. So, you know, that's that's a whole nother thing for you there. I think Ursa's a pretty important hero. Maybe they fucking, you know, nerf this shit in like a week, but you want to gain some free MMR in the next fucking week and a half or however long it is, you gotta be able to play Ursa to the highest capabilities. Like, this hero is busted as fuck. I think once you get to, like, hitting creeps and Battle Fury, this hero is like the easiest fucking hero in the game. I feel like the only hero, or the only time in the game that this hero is difficult is like the first 5 to 10 minutes. Like, your vision of that portion of the game has to be immaculate. And I think, when I say immaculate, like, if you get that part of the game down, this hero's just, like, broken as all fuck. Because after that point, he's brain dead. So, I do think it's a crucial lesson to learn, though. Not just on Ursa. I want you to realize that every hero, yes, they have a copy-pasted build a lot of the time. Meaning there is usually an optimal, efficient build. But every hero has their weaknesses and exploits. And I would say for Ursa, the minute he's allowed to walk at people and hit them, he's like the easiest hero in the game. But if it's not the case, then you kind of have to chill and get items enough to do that. Sometimes that means they're running away from you, so you buy move speed. Sometimes it's they're hitting you back and you just don't trade well enough. And noticing that is a big part of any carry. You know, it's like if I'm playing Spectre. Most of the lanes I kind of just want to sustain and maybe occasionally dagger the guy and right-click him because I use dagger to get a creep. But otherwise, I'm kind of just chilling. I'm not really doing too much. But if I'm playing Slark, as long as I'm allowed to hit him with Essence Shift, it feels good. You know, if I'm not allowed to hit him with Essence Shift, I'm probably just maxing Dark Pact and farming. But every carry has these like different strengths and weaknesses to the lane. Ursa, I hit them, I win. I don't hit them, I don't win. And the only two things that limit me from hitting them are movement speed and, you know, the ability to trade efficiently. And melee versus melee, it ain't movement speed that's stopping you from hitting the guy, right? It ain't movement speed. So that's a crucial lesson, though, that applies to every hero. People say, you know, BSJ, why did you go boots first here? I played Slark against Quap, and I went wand straight into boots because, like, Wraithbands, what did they do against Quap? You know, the guy's going to right-click me, and I can't right-click him back. So what do Wraithbands do, you know? But if I want to right-click him back, I literally have to walk at the guy. So boots actually give me damage because I'm walking at the guy. It also helps me, like, evade some of his right-clicks, and then I get treads, and maybe I can kill him. But it's like, you know, if you go boots against a melee hero, and he goes right-click items with, like, a blade or a chainmail and, you know, a glove of haste, it's like he's just going to trade better than you. So, yeah, I know I've said a lot about this point, but man, does it apply in every single matchup. So, game's a bit awkward now. I'd say as Ursa and pretty much every carry this patch that isn't like a hyper jungle farmer, you kind of just have to fight your way back into the lane. So I think this is reasonable that you're back here, but it doesn't really feel good to contest them directly. So you see them coming back to your lane, you're probably gonna, oh, you're gonna run right back in. Okay. Interesting. So, yeah. Let's talk about Slardar. Does Slardar take my tower?
Not really.
Does Slardar flash farm?
Nope.
Okay, so we talked about ways of, like, conceptually approaching Bristle. What do you think about Slardar? Like, at this stage in the game, if you're ahead or behind, how would you, like, capitalize on the fact that you're against Slardar?
I mean, Slardar doesn't really have the means to chase. Like, he kind of just wants to be in the lane and hit people if they come up.
Okay.
So if I'm either not in the lane or I'm like pushing the wave out and going to hit creeps or jungle camps, that's probably ideal. And like even if I'm not even here, Sardar's not going to take my tower, you know, without help or whatever else, at least for a while. So
like in general, if I'm against Slardar at this stage of the game, what is like the necessary conditions for me to like lane against him?
Like either I have help or I have items to trade with him.
Yeah,
like,
exactly, right? It's like if I hit him and he hits me, I win, and that's like me gauging that or not. And or I have somebody that's like trying to gang with me, like you said, I have some help or whatever. Yeah. So I don't know if you thought you could trade with him there, with your items being literally 0 right-click items. You have 11 minutes into the game, 0 attack speed on your items, 0 stats, and yeah. So this is a situation where, you know, if you thought you could trade with them, at least buy items that tell me that, you know, like you definitely didn't, you bought me items that say I'm fucking useless, I'm going to hit some creeps, and there's no item I can buy to not be useless. Like, that's basically what you're saying to me, right? Like, I've seen anti-mages go no boots Battle Fury, right? And it's like, you know, people would be like, BSJ, why did he skip Wraithbands here? And it's like, well, if the Wraithbands don't actually change anything, where he can't win the trades, and if he buys Wraithbands, he still can't win the trades, then maybe Wraithband would just slow down his Battle Fury. You know, like, that's all it would do. But if you buy, like, 2 Wraithbands, and it allows you to occupy your lane an extra 2 minutes, and then get an extra level or 2 before you jungle, those Wraithbands were a worthwhile investment on a hero like Anti-Mage. So the thing is here that a lot of this is like, oh, he's probably not going to go back in the lane. You know, it doesn't really make sense to go contest that Slardar. A lot of this is just thinking the same questions every game. Does this guy take my tower? Is this guy like a flash farmer, kill hero? Is this guy somebody that if I'm trading farm with, I'm content with? Is this, like, I realized in my Nakes game that I played today, I really didn't like the dynamic of that Sand King lane. Like, I picked Nakes into Sand King thinking, this hero doesn't pressure me at all, whatever. But he would just sandstorm the creep camps, and I couldn't do anything about it. Like, I'm like, am I supposed to buy dust? Because at that point, all I'm doing is hitting him, and then he's going to leave the sandstorm. Like, I can't actually kill this guy. So I was like, wow, like, if that's the case, Nakes really likes lanes where he can walk up to the guy and hit him. And if the guy walks back up, he hits him again. And that was the rare game where I actually had last pick as carry. So my point is, Nakes isn't content trading farm with somebody. Like, he doesn't want that guy to get as much or more farm than he's getting. That's like the whole point, the premise. And Ursa's kind of the same way. Like, the reason why Ursa's kind of broken is because he's like flash farming this Battle Fury, and if anybody tries to come into his lane, he just kills them. So they usually have to bring 3 heroes, and then he just TPs to the other lane and does the same thing. And he says, bring 3 heroes again, I dare you. You know, it's like, I'll just walk into my own jungle. It's like, and then I'll have Battle Fury and kill you all. So it's like, my point being, though, is that you'll start noticing the questions are always the same. It's just a different answer with the different heroes. So in this case, I'm trying to avoid the Troll Warlord game where you stayed in lane after you killed the Bristle. I'm trying to avoid, like, casually walking into lane against the Slardar at 10 minutes. You know, like, that just... That's never going to be good. Literally ever. And then there's some games where you should never let that guy hit a creep, right? Because if you walk at him, nothing's going to happen to you. Like, you just can't do anything to you. You know, if that's a level 5 Nightstalker off lane and you're level 8 Ursa, that guy should never get a single creep without you hitting him, right? Like, that should be you up in his face. So you gave me 2 games where Troll, you weren't the most survivable hero based on their heroes, so you should play a bit more passively. And this game, you kind of just fucked up the lane, which is going to happen sometimes. And so in that case, you kind of just got to play passively. And so I will tell you that I would highly recommend watching one quick Ursa replay with, like, all the things I've talked about in mind. I have plenty of them you can watch on my stream where the guy on the enemy team... You know, today I played against rank 2 Kataro on Ursa. It feels unfucking playable. Like, when a low rank 2 guy gets a decent Ursa game, like, I'm like, well, I guess we fucking lost. Just, it'll save you a lot of... I think you seem intuitive enough to catch on pretty quick, so...
Yeah, I think once I watched the Matumbo Man video that you did, but, like, I didn't have enough Ursa games to put it into context. Yeah. And now, like, that I've played more Ursa, I can see, like, oh yeah, this is a power spike. Like, so I guess I'll just rewatch it, rewatch some replays.
Sure. Yeah. So you got a gank for yourself there. That's a bit different, right? Walk back into lane against Slardar. That's fine.
My favorite kill is the monster.
Yeah, this game, I'm going to say that your vision of the lane, like, yes, there may be some way to recover, but anytime I fuck up like this, like, it happens to all of us. Anytime I fuck up like this, I'm like, team carry me. I hope I have enough farm to eventually have impact in this game. Like, your control on this game is non-existent, and in your bracket, if you want to win, you do have to have decent influence on whether or not the game's a win. And I feel like what you came into this session saying was, you know, in my first game, you showed me your mid laner kind of carried the game. And in this game, what I'm seeing is that your lane performance is actually a huge problem here. So do you have another game available from this patch on a hero? Maybe it could be another Troll replay. I don't really care. I don't want it to be Ursa. Any other hero that you feel like you may have a better conceptual grasp of the lane. If it's not Troll, that's also ideal. But if it has to be Troll, then so be it.
I got a good CK game that I think I actually was on the like, I was the one influencing the lane. So we had a good lane against the Sand King. So
sure, let's check that out. This has been a weird session because it's like a new patch, and I it's kind of like in my head learning a lot of these things very, very quickly. But it's funny to me how the meta of small items can have such a massive impact on what carries are, like, good. I feel like right now you either need to want to rush like a Helm Dom, or you need to, like, naturally just buy 2 Wraith Bands and Treads. That's like pretty much the carries that are good right now. If you pick a strength hero, Bracer seems okay for the lane. It's a bit of sustain. It's 8 damage, but it doesn't feel nearly as powerful as Bracer used to. So let's see what happens.
I was
here.
unsure. I wasn't sure if I should go Wraith Band instead, even though it's like even on a hero like CK.
Yeah, I actually wonder. I've considered it. Like, you know, am I supposed to go Wraith Band on strength heroes? It's only 2 damage compared to 8 of Bracer, which is a bit awkward.
Hello, I'm Gabe Newell. You've just achieved first blood. Thanks and have fun.
Seems like such a small thing, but when you drag aggro to your range like this, what's stopping you from being right here in lane where my mouse is?
Nothing really.
So like, what is like you're obviously thinking you want to deny this, right?
Yeah.
So the way you're positioning basically says if Sand King wants to walk up and hit it, maybe you'll get the deny. Right here it says, I dare you to fucking walk through me, bro. I'll hit you 3 times, right? Like,
yeah.
I just want you to think about how if you're going to drag creeps to your range like this, which is great, and you're going to go for the deny, great. I want you to like realize the benefit of this is that if they try to go for it, they are going to like walk out of position. And it's when it comes to like making the correct consistent plays on any position, it's about always being in the right place. Like that's really what it is. You're always in the right place. That means you're always going to be ready to capitalize if the conditions are met for whatever good play is being made. So it's such a small thing to flame, but I know, you know, I'm not exaggerating here. A good player, like when I say like good player, like 8K plus, 9K plus, would be here 100% of the time. Like 100%. Gotcha. So it's just something to think about, right? When it comes to your positioning in lane, I just want you to think to the best of your capabilities, how far up can I be without the other guy being allowed to do shit about it? Like, you know, right now you have the ward on Quap, right? Usually if Quap's missing, or she's like, you know she's like right here, maybe standing where I'm telling you isn't worth it, because if you try to trade with the Sand King, the Quap just daggers you and the Sand King hits you back, right? Yeah. And then at that point, it's like, that, you know, I postured aggressively and then they just hit me. So usually I like to just think to myself and get creative. What can this opponent do to me if I stand right here? And if the answer is nothing, then you should be there every single time. So it's hard to recognize this. It's not an easy skill. And when I say a good player would do this every time, it's because as they get better and better at understanding matchups, their capabilities, the meaning of this range creep, you know, it's like this SK wants that fucking range creep, man. He doesn't want to deal with you, you know, as that range creep's dying. The guy's like misplaying it by just giving it up for free, you know. He's just letting you deny it. But okay, just something to think about.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. I'm glad you pointed it out because I like those small things too. That's why I signed up. So
cool, man. You don't have to suck up to me that hard, bro. Okay. It looks like you're dropping items, or no, you're flying them out. Okay. Usually, I prefer to like finish CSing under tower before I worry about my courier. Yeah. Okay. This is a lane where I would have strongly considered just pulling the small camp myself when my Avenge died there. I want you to know it's an option, because you walking up and getting daggered by Quab is not ideal. So, against Sand King, the lane's going to naturally push in the second he tries to farm, because of Caustic and Sandstorm. So I'd be content to like say, hey man, if he really wants to do nothing while I farm this camp, then so be it. But I don't want to walk up and take all this damage. So just something to think about. I think even I get lazy sometimes, especially when I'm playing unfamiliar heroes or in a new patch. I forget the fundamentals of, I just want this lane near my fucking tower, man. Okay. Pretty good participation from you on CK. I would even argue that I would have gone my W level 2. Okay. I think on CK, what's really nice about your W is it helps you secure creeps. like a range creep. And it's also a decent trade mechanic. It's like 3- armor, and you W the guy. Nobody really wants to trade with you. It's like, okay, you just W'd and crit them, and you'll get an extra 1 or 2 hits off of it. And then it's like at level 3, usually you want your crit, right? Because the life steal goes from 25 to 40. So at that point, you have to decide at level 3, do I absolutely need this stun?
Right.
I think you're going for this like kill phase too early. I think this this patch is so much about just like trading your way till your lead at like level 3 or 4, and then punishing the fuck out of the opponent because you're level 4 or 5 and they're level 3 or 4, right?
Yeah.
So in the early game, I really like to prioritize skills that just give me better trading. I've even seen like mid Venges go like 0-4-2. You know, they'll just have no points and stun because that ability doesn't help you trade. So I would say once your trading abilities are good enough to win trades, that's when you start leveling shit that kills people. Like, that's kind of how I look at it. And if your trade abilities like aren't good enough to trade and your only option is to kill them, at that point you consider leveling your stun. You know, it's like maybe Reality Rift in whatever given lane, you don't feel good trading. I think most lanes it would, but maybe it doesn't in a specific lane. In that case, kills are the better option. I think there's really nowhere in between. Like, very few lanes is it anywhere in between where one hero benefits from the trades and the other hero benefits from the kills. And if the same hero fits that same description, meaning like where the same hero benefits from killing and trades, the lane's like already won, right? Like, you know, it's like if they can't trade and they can't kill you, then the lane's, I don't have to teach you how to play that lane. So I want you to think that way. I just want you to shift your mindset. I think it hurt you on Ursa. In this lane, it didn't make you lose. I think maybe you just missed 1 or 2 extra creeps. I think you could have done extra damage to the Sand King. I think you could have maybe poked this Quap a couple times more, where you just walk over and casually Reality Rifter. Like even the stun on her, I think you would have killed her just fine if you had Reality Rifted her. And if you Reality Rifted her and then level 3, you wish you had your stun. You know, maybe next time around you level your stun level 3 instead of a second point in your crit. You know, that's the kind of stuff that can be very, very nitpicky. You know, matchup to matchup. Okay, so. Let's see.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
I'd be a bit more conservative with your stick, especially a hero like CK, where your abilities naturally restore you to full health over time. I think it's really nice to save your stick for like burst heal in the middle of engagements. Just something to consider. I learned it from Miracle. He saves his stick like so much. He just casually holds on to a large charge stick or a high charge stick without committing to using it ever. Okay.
Yeah, their mid just stays here for some reason.
Okay. Well, your Kunkka's like absolutely free farming. I'm at this point where I'm just gonna chill underneath my tower. My mid laner's now farming in return. I just need to not die here.
Yeah.
I'd be probably defensively creep aggroing there if possible. Okay, looks like Clinks is. You can assume he's still here though. Okay, now he's showing mid. He's gone.
Killing spree.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Double damage. 8 knots and full ahead.
Here's the problem I have with this item. Here. Is you're against Quap Sand King. How much physical damage would you say those two heroes do?
Not very much.
Not very much, right? It's so effectively this armor to me doesn't really mean much. Yeah, Clinks kind of ganked your lane or whatever, but the majority of the time you're not interacting with Clinks. So the way I look at this is that if there's an item that I'm buying that is regen based. Okay, so every hero in the game, their whole purpose is to get as much farm and XP as possible, right? Like they want as much gold and they want as much XP as possible. So I'm going to try to pick your brain here. Why would a regen item like Helm of Iron Will with armor in it and everything, give me more farm.
If you need the regen and or armor to either stay in lane or farm camps or just to accelerate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So great, exactly. So regen is basically like if I don't have this regen, no amount of like stat items will help me farm fast enough because I can't actually hit creeps. You know, I can't actually walk up to them. So it's kind of the same as your Ursa game, where your Ursa game, I think you had to be able to trade with them. Like you had to be able to fight your way out of that lane. And if you're gonna jungle, I'd much rather you have treads and a wraith band than a ring of health, anyways, right? Like you just jungle faster with those items. It's the same idea here. Like, I don't think you need this Helm of Iron Will to lane, right? It's not that it's not nice, but why not just crit more? You know, like obviously your crit's on a cooldown, but you're spamming this fucking ability, right? You're hitting every creep that's available.
Yeah.
I just want to lifesteal as much as possible with damage, or I just want to keep sustaining and attack faster so I kill creeps faster. You know, whatever it is, I just want to kill shit faster. I want to farm as fast as possible. And I just see this 900 gold item that doesn't accelerate me at all. Like, that's my problem.
Right.
You know, you have, let's see, what's your net worth? You have a fourth of your net worth is dedicated, technically it's a third when you bought it, because you have another 900 gold on top of it with the treads coming out to you. It's a third of your net worth that just doesn't accelerate you at all. So, like, today I saw a replay of Paparazzi on Spectre, and he went no items Helm Dom. And it's like, this Helm of Iron Will, yeah, it doesn't accelerate his farm, but he rushed the Helm Dom. So the second he got the Helm Dom, suddenly he went from being this like passive regen machine to being a flash farmer with this creep. And for me, when it comes to the buildup of items, that's great. Like, if you're working towards an item that accelerates the shit out of your game, then sure, like, maybe you're willing to take these detours, you know? You're willing to take these slight inefficiencies in order to get to that item faster. But I just feel like if you want to go treads armlet, man, then just go fucking treads armlet, you know? Like, don't slow yourself down in terms of the order of the items, unless this Helm of Iron Will is 100% necessary. You know, if you're going to buy tangos and it allows you to push the creep wave faster, and it allows you to then go kill a jungle camp, those tangos have already paid for themselves. So it's like, if you want to buy treads and you think you need that extra tango to, like, you know, have enough regen to play the lane, then do it, you know? But I definitely, between this game and the Ursa game, I'm just seeing too much luxury sustain shit, you know? Like, I want to see hit creeps harder, hit creeps faster, hit heroes harder, hit heroes faster. That's what I want to see, because that's like your main limitation on heroes like Ursa and CK. How fast do you right click? You know what I mean? Like, that's your farming restriction. Okay. And my answer to you is, like, you know, you're doing all this shit you're doing right now. Imagine if you just did 10 more damage and attack 20 attack speed faster there. You know, like, shit, you'd be doing what you're doing even better. It's working with a Helm of Iron Will. Were you even remotely close to dying there? You know, it's like the Helm of Iron Will ain't doing shit. So I'm now seeing, like, I think your play's reasonable, like the way you're playing the lane, the way you're fighting with your teammates and shit. But you know, at this point, you could say, like, oh, BSJ, the Helm of Iron Will looks real nice now. It's like, great, go treads, then the Helm of Iron Will if you think you need it right now. You know, like, great. And it's like, if you didn't think you needed it here, then buy the Glove of Haste first. Yeah, so...
Yeah, that makes sense.
People were asking, like, BSJ, you know, don't you like going the chainmail first on Nakes when you're against heavy physical? And it's like, dude, I hit like a fucking kitten, dude. Like, even if I get tankier, they don't care, you know? Like, I hit for fucking 49 base damage. So, like, on Nakes, I almost always go the Blade of Attack first, because even though it's not the most efficient damage item, you know, it's 450 gold for 9 damage, it's like, my hero doesn't do anything. Your hero, which is really nice about him, is he has innate sustain, right? So you kind of just have to make yourself as much of a threat with health and mana and attack speed and damage as you possibly can. So, or mostly mana. Your health isn't as much of an issue. Yeah. So I've said enough about this, but I just want you to do exactly what you're doing in lane playstyle-wise with better items for what you're doing.
That makes sense.
Okay, so you're playing aggressively up. You're gonna go armlet into Echo Saber. Okay.
Radiant's middle tower has fallen. Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
They're unstoppable? That was unreal. This is game.
Yeah, this is kind of what CK does. He doesn't rotate too often unless he has to. You kind of just say, I dare you to walk up to my lane. If you come here, I usually kill you. If I have ult. We're gonna push the tower, great.
Radiant's top tower is under attack. Radiant's top tower has fallen.
I definitely just TP bottom here. We're done here.
Monster kill.
Sand King, I guess, wants to casually feed.
Dire's bottom
Yeah.
tower is under attack.
I just don't have ult. I'd much prefer to just TP bottom and not be forced to take part in fights. Like,
Right.
if a fight comes to me, that's different. I guess my way of looking at this is like, because you're not farming bottom, you have a Kunkka farming bottom. Would you rather Kunkka be doing what you're doing right now, or you?
Yeah, Kunkka.
Radiant's
Yeah,
bottom
right? So it's like, that's how I look at it. By not taking the farm away from fights, you're naturally gonna, make somebody else do it. So at that point, this decision's a bit weird. In some games, maybe it's good for you to play like this. Maybe your mid laner's like a Medusa, you know, or a Tinker, or, you know, some hero like that. And they don't really want to play within fights. But by you staying on this part of the map, which is where your wards are, where you guys are making aggressive plays, you're actually joining fights. You're playing with your team. And it may say BSJ, like, you know, we always talk about taking the opponent's safe lane tower first and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, clearly based on your wards and the way your team's playing, that's not where the action is. You know, it's not bottom. So, like I said, it's kind of like, if fights come to me on a CK hero, I'm fine to play them. But I'm also not just looking to be continuously a part of these fights.
Radiant's bottom
okay.
tower is under attack.
I would say mainly this comes down to map placement. I'd rather you be the Kunkka and the Kunkka be you. That's like how I look at this. Is this party queue or solo queue?
No, it's solo queue.
Okay. A lot of it does usually have to do with the carry player, though, even in solo queue. A lot of it usually does. Like, if you willingly don't take that farm, somebody else is going to go do it. If that Kunkka, like, did it so fast you had no chance, that's, like, a bit different. Not really in your control. It's at that point your choice to either go join him or play mid because you think you can.
Yeah.
I just don't want it to be your decisions that are forcing the error there. I'm not as huge a fan of Echo Saber on CK ever since they made his crit time-based. Back when his crit was just a 300 damage crit, or 300% crit, I did like Echo Saber a lot.
Yeah, I was considering like drums versus Echo Saber here, or some other like accelerating.
I personally would probably choose SNY. I think against Zeus Sand King, your only way to play is either a BKB or sustain. So your choice is BKB plus like damage items, or SNY Satanic. I'd say that's really your only choice, because BKB says you're going to try to win the fight in the first 10 seconds. SNY Satanic says you don't plan to do that, but you know against heroes like Sand King, Zeus, Quap, you're going to take a lot of AoE. You're going to get, you know, taken down to half, and I need to tank through it and sustain. So your build doesn't really tell me what you're planning to do in fights and shit. Like, that's basically what I'm seeing here. I'm like, how does he plan to fight against Sand King, Zeus, Queen of Pain with Armlet Echo Saber? Like, these, you know, that's how I look at it. I think on carry, this patch is weird. I'm still figuring it out, but it seems like Battle Fury or these like SNY builds are pretty much the only way to go.
Gotcha.
Unless you're Spectre with a Radiance. Or maybe Wraith King.
Killing is impossible kill.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
Dominating, I guess.
Radiant's top tower has fallen.
I don't really see what Manta does for you other than be like a luxury farm item. I don't really see what it does for you here. I'm kind of trying to lean away from those myself. Luxury farm items. I feel like this patch, my item has to make me a strong fighter, or be like a ridiculous accelerant in the case of like anti-mage. You know, anti-mage doesn't really function without Battle Fury. But like the thing about a hero like Lifestealer, people ask me about Battle Fury on him. It doesn't actually make my hero like function in a fight. So I have to buy Battle Fury and then buy items that allow me to fight. And so it's like, compare that to an Ursa who buys Battle Fury and fights. It's like it's a bit different. So like if I'm itemizing, I'm usually trying to find a blend of items that allow me to farm faster and allow me to fight better. In this game, Manta does literally nothing for fights. It's like if you were against all single target physical, or you know, a couple roots or something, or like a silence or two, that's like a bit different. In this game, you're just against a bunch of like AoE magic damage, which Manta does literally nothing. So
yeah,
it's just too much luxury, I think, here. It doesn't give you enough for farming to make up for how much like it costs and how much it is efficient for you.
Yeah.
So I think your overall playstyle honestly is pretty good in general. I think other than a little bit of map movements, which are actually pretty advanced. So I'd say it mainly comes down to your laning stage. You're just too slow with your items the way they play. I think you'll just have an extra 10-15 CS at 14 minutes if you just buy better items. And I think that's a mindset. You know, this is our first my session of 7.27. It is kind of a general premise, though, for carries. I think it's been leaning that way for a long time now. I think this patch is even more important. So when you're trying to climb out of 3.5K, you know, I talk to a lot of people, or people always come in saying, you know, BSJ, I'm stuck in this bracket. How do I get out? It really just comes down to hitting creeps harder and faster. Like, you just have to farm faster than the opponent, and while not dying to do so. So in the Troll Warlord game, I think that game was like you had a heavy momentum from your mid laner, and your overall play on the map was pretty good, but you were playing maybe a bit too far up on the side of the map that you were on. So, you know, that's something you'll continuously hone, you know, what your limits of farm are, like how far up on the map you are allowed to play. But then, like, when you built SNY, it's like at that point, you know, was the SNY accelerant really worth delaying your BKB to fight them? You know, it's like if I'm farming freely, I'm just gonna buy an item that allows me to farm or fight if I can. You know, like if there's an item that then allows me to fight, I'm just gonna buy it. Like here, you win Echo Saber Armlet or Armlet Echo Saber. I don't even think that's crazy. You want to do that? Fine. It's like your next item better let you fucking fight them. You know, it's like that's how I look at it. And if it's some item with the intent to help you fight them and it may not be the best item, we can talk about that. But in this case, you just have 3 items, which honestly, none of them really affect fights. They're all kind of just luxury items that make you do a little bit more damage, a little bit tankier, farm a bit faster. And it just doesn't seem well thought out. I don't actually really know a better description of that. And then we looked at the Ursa game, and your overall approach to the lane, I think, is kind of unsalvageable from your hero's perspective. You know, there's no amount of... In this game, even though your items weren't great, your hero was still able to do the job he wanted to do. And you still did that pretty well. So it's like, I think your overall understanding of your job is pretty good. But understanding what each hero in the game requires to do it is definitely a huge hindrance for you. So
for sure.
Yeah, I've talked about it a lot, but I think you should definitely focus on, you know, minimizing regen items and maximizing farm efficiency items in your builds. The Troll Warlord game was pretty decent. Like, I think you went like you went Wand, Wraithband, Treads. Even then you went Boots first, right?
Instead
of the Glove of Haste. Yeah, I legitimately believe, so, like you said, you're climbing some MMR. I think most of the things you're doing are pretty fundamentally sound. I think refining your tread switching is really important. And then on top of that, I'd play a small pool of heroes this patch, maybe like 4 or 5, and really focusing on this concept that I've talked to you about, where you feel like, okay, I need this item, or this hero lacks damage, this hero lacks attack speed, this hero needs a bit better armor to trade, or This hero
Right.
doesn't do any of that, so they rush an item that makes them farm faster. You know, like in Spectre's case or whatever. Getting that thought process down to yourself, I feel like if you do that on 4 or 5 heroes, you can actually extend that a lot to other heroes. Like, it'll take you, let's say it takes you 25 games to get it down on CK and all these other heroes. But once you've gotten good at that thought process, you should be able to do it in like 20 games or 15 games of other heroes, because you've gotten better at thinking this way. So,
For sure.
yeah, like I said, a lot of rambling. Are there any final questions you have before the wrap it up?
No, I think that's it. I think it was super helpful. So I just have to think more about all the heroes I'm playing, their timings, spikes, what they need.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, the way you're playing, you're going to improve. Like, you didn't have to have this coaching session. Like, what I mean by that is a lot of people hear this kind of shit, and I'm going to tell you blatantly that this knowledge is not required for you to be gaining MMR. But I think you are quite... I don't say this, like, I'm not just saying this because you signed up. Like, I do think you are quite capable of quickly adjusting your items and, like, drastically gaining MMR. Like, I think you are quite capable of that, because I think it's such a hindrance for you right now. So you're basically trying to do the right thing with like half the net worth. Like, that's what you're trying to do. So you would have probably naturally gained MMR without this knowledge, and my hope is, honestly, with you specifically, that you would gain like 1,000 MMR in the next like month and a half. Like, I think I don't want to put too much pressure on you. I don't want to put too much pressure on you.
Well, I was 4K as a support, so it's not, like,
I want
so
you to be
daunting.
confident in what you're doing already, and just think more about what it takes to get that done, and that's going to reflect in your items. So rather than just what you're doing, what does it take to efficiently do what I'm doing? So, because as a support, it actually makes sense to me now that I think about it. You said this at the start of the session, but it didn't really process to me. But you actually have a good understanding of what you're supposed to do in the game, but your itemization isn't there, and that totally makes sense because the support, you just don't get items. So
Exactly.
that's actually really funny. You know, sometimes a pretty obvious point just slaps you in the face. So man, I hope you enjoyed the session, and best of luck.
I did, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Sorry about being late.
No worries, dude. All right, see ya.
I just realized, I'm like, wait a minute. All these things totally make sense.